So Vedanta has become incredibly popular recently, specifically Advaita or non-dual Vedanta. But Vedanta itself is much more diverse practice than this. The word Vedanta is actually even mentioned in some of the earlier sutras of Vaisheshika, I believe. Um, but the modern school of Vedanta was founded by Shankara in the 7th century. And Shankara is quite an interesting character. I actually gave a little bit of a lecture about him, which I may or may not post also. And so he was a bit of a rebel, and he essentially completely disrupted the academic Buddhists in northern India. And he reverted India back to Hinduism. Later, though, the other main character that we talk about is often Madhvacharya. And Madhvacharya, also like Shankara, he provided a counter to Shankara's Advaita non-dualism. Non-dualism, of course, referring to the difference between consciousness and the rest of the world. And also referring to the distance between God and the rest of the world. Now, Madhva believed in the Dvaita, or dualism. And Madhva also was a bit of a rebel, too. Madhva argued from this based off of the, I'm blanking on the name, but the two birds Upanishad, as I call it. And it's also important to note here that a lot of the ideas in here obviously were not based off of their own thinking. Oftentimes they were based off of previous things, Madhva with the two birds and Shankara with the Mundik Karika. Thus, it's extremely important. Up here now, I'm going to show a graph of the metaphysics of Dvaita and Advaita. It's also important to note there is also Vasishtha Advaita Vedanta, which is Ramanuja, who was born in the 14th century, who essentially means non-dualism with some weird differences. So they're non-dual, but they still have differences. So he oftentimes argued there's a hand analogy that Shankara gave. Is the finger still part of the hand? And Ramanuja would say, well, yes, but it's also a finger, and the rest of the hand is not part of the finger. So Dvaita believes essentially that you have two fundamental types of things in the universe. You have the divine and you have the material. And Brahma is the divine that essentially forms the material. He isn't the material exactly necessarily, depending on who you ask, but he does form it. So that's why I put him in the middle. Souls, of course, are part of the divine. And Advaita would say that actually everything is made up of this non-dual substance, and it's only illusion that there is different. So of course, he would, as I previously said, it's only illusion, such as the finger in the hand. Of course, Dvaita would say that this is not a good comparison. So the interesting thing here is that, like with a lot of Indian philosophy, it is differentiated with the views on self.